Vilani, how has technology impacted you as a creative in the sector?
Definitely. During the pandemic, I'm not sure if it's officially over yet, but yeah, when it started, which was around 2020, as you mentioned earlier, it really accelerated technology, and also more so the adoption of it as well. I'm thinking of it now. Actually, I didn't even think about this all along. Actually, like the projects I mentioned earlier, and then Guru Machina, which is AI generated music projects around that, sounds that are using machine learning, was actually created around that time. Possibly because I had more time on my hands, stuck in a room, and you could do things, you could really push. But also, one of the byproducts of that time, I think, that's very underrated is, of course, like AR, things like VR, XR space were also accelerated. You could I think the apps like VR Chat, they really came into their own, and also a lot of ways of people tried to find other ways of communicating, which were, because now we couldn't see each other, and then of course that accelerated internet adoption and all these technologies like I mentioned earlier. But what it also did was make the world smaller. So for example, I've been part of, in the last 2 years, I've been part of projects. I would say like 60 or 70% of my work is usually with institutions that are outside of South Africa. I don't think I would have had that much impact pre-COVID, because I think when COVID took place, then even the big institutions like the ZKMs, MITs, all those people that also have branches that also look at creatives and researchers and people that work in all these fringe spaces in terms of art and science and technology, they started looking. Even if they weren't consciously looking, I mean, they were forced, because now everybody is not in the physical space in their institutions. They are online, and who are they going to see online? They're going to see all these African artists that never would be, or creatives or researchers that they would never normally be exposed to, because now the world has just gotten much smaller. So I would say that's one of the things that I really think was, I don't want to say great byproduct of the COVID. One of the outcomes that happened there, yeah. So you had where like you had eyeballs now in Africa and other spaces where you wouldn't actually have, now considering, like, talking about big organizations like your Googles and your IBMs. They started looking everywhere, and they could see, oh, there's these people operating in the periphery. So that was really something interesting that came out of it, I feel.
Yeah, but I think when we speak about AI and virtual reality, technology, and you think about the South African context specifically from like an economic perspective, it really does feel like some of this is like out of a lot of young people's reach because of just the cost of technology, the cost of devices, access to these devices and access to places where maybe they can access these devices. And I'm going to ask Eduardo and Max, where are the opportunities, for young people to get mentorship, to get some support, to get some of that, exposure that might put them, in the places that they need to be? Are there streams of funding, flows of funding, or opportunities that are available to young people where they can at least start, and I think maybe this can also look broader at stakeholders and funders, can they play a bigger role in this, and if so, how?
There's a huge problem with that. We've actually been speaking about it in our team this week, because there is a need for funding for base things like equipment, which a lot of kids don't have access to. And I think what you end up finding is that the people who get access to that tiny thing, it can become a huge accelerator if it's early on in their career, because let's say you get a phone where you can start using AI tools, and I think actually AI is going to make a big difference in this, because most of it is cloud-based, so you don't actually need a hugely powerful device. And this is why I think there's a huge amount of skepticism around AI, I'm finding, in South Africa. I think we need to get over that. We really have to get into that space and using this tech, because if we're left behind, we're truly going to be behind and we'll never catch up. I think there is a need, probably from government, I would say, and also, I mean, as the corporate space, if they could also help with that, to offer the opportunity for young people, and maybe like from what you were talking about also, who have that need and that want, they should be able to have access to devices. I think if we offered those opportunities, we would just be blown away by what would come out of that. So I think it's important, but it's a critical gap in the creative industry, and especially in the digital industry, because you need those devices. So yeah, I think that's something. Maybe also there needs to be more discussions about how we can do that. And I'm also convinced that the government, if they're given concrete data around what they could do, that they would also understand the value of it. You know, there's only so many things you can do at once, but if we can show the value proposition for that, I mean, I think Fakuges is a really good example. We've offered opportunities for like early stage careers at very key times in their practice, and a lot of those people now are like international artists. They're in the major shows around the world, and you know, they just need a small opportunity, and they really take that and just go. So we need more spaces to do that, more support for, you know, other festivals, like new festivals popping up. There was an interesting festival that started this year. It was its first time, the Grand Queer Festival, which is for queer artists working in the digital space. We need more, and the government needs to support them also long term, because you can't keep starting and remaking the wheel every time. It's very, you lose a lot of momentum.
Yeah. No, we were actually recently at the launch of the MasterCard and Ingenie EdTech Fellowship that we've been named a part of, and it was really encouraging to see the Ministry of Basic Education there really committed to EdTech companies and to really introducing that. So I think that support from the government that you speak of is really important.
Yeah.
And Max, I mean, in your world or in your experience, where do you see those spaces where young people can find that support and mentorship?
I think the young people really need to use the resources in terms of the internet, because forget about government. I'm sorry, like they are still like pre-COVID, you know, how with the type of information that they have, it takes us years to teach them, because it's up to us to teach them, right? But it takes them such a red tape for them to implement, and then they will struggle with policies because it's saying this thing is new, they don't know how to navigate. Okay.
Politics on top of that.
Exactly. So I really would love, I think the one part that South Africans especially, because I've noticed with the rest of Africa, they are tapping into the information about the VC space, right, where there's venture capitalists. There's a whole lot of these businesses, especially in South Africa. Most of them are based in Cape Town, that are looking for young talent, and they are willing to fund you if you have a certain. They will test your product and all those things to see if it will work and all of that. So I think we really need to immerse ourselves in this type of information, because I truly think that that's probably maybe the quickest way, and also will be like-minded people that you don't have to like sell much or teach, still have to teach, because government, you still need to teach them. So I really think if you can find these spaces where they do like funds, like there's so many funding places that are available out there, but they usually will have a certain objective. So you just need to know which one does what for what you want to do, you know. So I think that's probably the better way the faster way to do it right now. Government.
Max, you are just like it's
I'm
not
like,
happening.
I trust IDC, and I trust Department of Trade and Industry in terms of a bit of how they have forced themselves to be advanced. So based on what you are focusing on and what you like, your category, if they fit and you know what their objectives are, they will probably, when it comes to government, maybe they are the people to look at. everybody else body, the ones that are supposed to focus on the youth, national YDA, what, they are so behind. Okay, some of them are my clients, so let me not say it.
After saying all of that, I think let's congratulate them for your sake and your client base. But this has been a really amazing conversation. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. I've got one more question though for everyone, and I'll start with Brian. If you could give one piece of advice to a young person who is living in a rural area, actually, you know, so I'm not even talking about us in the cities with the access, you know, is mad talented, you know, is a real creative, and really wants to break into the creative space. What is the one piece of advice that you could give to them about how to really build a sustainable career and how to thrive in the digital economy?
I think the first thing is, you know, don't have any fear in what you're about to commit into doing. Like, there's, in terms of your idea or in terms of just belief in your talent and what you're doing, because that belief is what's going to be one of the main drivers in what you're going to be doing going forward. And in that belief, you will make others believe in what you're doing and will be able to come on board and help propel you further. So I think that's the first sort of one thing I think sort of every creative or anyone that's wanting to push to do something in this field. And also to, as I think I said earlier, just be able to be driven, because it is a tough sector and you are going to be hit with knocks, and you know, knocks don't necessarily mean that, you know, this is the end of the road, you need to stop. You just need to take your learnings and continue and keep pushing, because those learnings you take on will be valuable down the line in what you're looking to achieve. So I think, yeah, try to alleviate fear, use that fear to drive you, and also to, yeah, just keep driven in what your passion point is, and you'll get there. And also surround yourself. I think that's one thing. Surround yourself with people. That's the key thing. I think always surround yourself with people around you that are like-minded and will help you elevate yourself as well.
Thank you for that. Vulani?
Yeah, definitely surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that will, you know, assist you in whatever you know, where you maybe might have skills that are lacking there, or even just to give you a pep talk when you're down, because it is kind of difficult, especially if you're doing stuff that is not really, you know, well established or already in the space. But also, more so than, I think it's much simpler now. I mean, speaking to what you were saying earlier, because we were talking about someone who's in the rural, so I'm looking at the worst possible case scenario, and I would say, back in 2007, we were able to, some of the big records here in South Africa that were made even around that time, most people don't even know they were made, because I was teaching in Nkandla, Deep Nkandla, with I was in a house with no water, no running water, no electricity. So it's not this new, no electricity thing here is not new to me. I was basically I've been, you know. So, and we mixed a record, and I stayed in we called it a cottage because I was based there, but it was more like a hut than anything, like grass proper with cows outside, and we mixed the record and we finished it. And because the internet wasn't that big then, actually we didn't have that good a reception. I would take the mix after using the most basic of that stuff, take the mix, go to the post office, send it here to Joburg in Auckland Park. And so there's always a way, and now it's even easier because everyone has cell phones. I mean, these phones that these young people carry now, they're so powerful. You can finish your whole work with it. Most apps actually are on that you used to have. You need like big equipment for, you can achieve now on phones. And also to speak to the surrounding part as well, just that not only involves people like your friends, it also like you know, people are in the space, like the festivals like Eduardo, the Chimolohong precinct, those sort of spaces. They, you know, try and find out and hang out there, and yeah, you'll meet other people who share your passions. That's it from me.
Awesome, thank you so much, Vulan. Max?
I would like to say that for that young person who is in the rural villages or in the areas, just start with what you have, you know, because I don't know, there's such a nice, beautiful trend now with content creators from rural areas that are making fire, the visuals, like people are like so intrigued, you know. Someone will just, the one who living in the Eastern Cape will just go to the ocean and catch like some mussels and eat it there immediately, and people are like, how can you eat that? They have some education part of it. So I really think that there's a room for everything in everybody. And if you do have a small device, just start with what you have. You know, start with the environment that you're in, because those, you understand it better. You are able to even give us the ones that are watching from far, like a bit of education. And I wanted to say also, like, for me, for local, especially South African content creators and who already have platforms right now, just know that there is now the industry when it comes to brands and advertising. There have now been a call for them to, because the money that you spend on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, they all leave South Africa. That money leaves the country. So now there is there is an intentional way of now brands are being like, you know, back in the days you used to be told like you need to spend on 30% of your budget needs to go to black owned company. Now there is going to be a percentage of a budget that needs to go to local content platforms and content. So if you have like your own TV channel and whatever, that's what now the money is going to go to. It's going to be like brands are being forced to spend the money in South African companies that are the money that's not going to leave the country, unlike your Facebooks and them. So I want to just encourage everybody right now who is doing their own thing, keep building that audience, maximize that audience, because what brands are looking for, it's an audience and a reach, right? So please just know that this is literally happening right now. Close to the end of the year, it will be in full force. So please don't stop, keep going and do that, because these international platforms now, they are going to be limited in terms of how much money brands can spend on them. I thought that was something I need to just throw in.
Oh no, thank you for throwing it in. That was real amazing.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining us today. Eduardo?
Yeah, I think I would connect to everything kind of Brian, Max, and Villani was saying, and maybe to kind of to bring it to passion. I think at the end of the day, it's a thing I see at Fakagezi and all previous projects I've worked on, is when you have the real passion. I think a lot of people end up chasing things, like things that are out there, and copying things or wanting to be like someone else, and I don't find that those things usually turn out very well. And I know in the music industry it's quite a well-known kind of trope that there's all of these people who seem so rich, but in reality everyone knows that they are broke and they're rich on Instagram but broke in real life. And I think what bringing your passion brings in, and bringing in your true self, which I think was the kind of important thing around the gender too, and I think it also connects with queer people. And if you can bring that true self to the work that you're doing and really bring that and bring your passion together, it can take you out of places that you might not want to be. Like, let's say you're a young queer person living in a rural space. It might be quite a dangerous space or not a nice space to be in, but connecting to that passion of yours and yourself, it can take you to amazing places, and that can be an energy that can take you, you have to be brave in a way, and that can push you through those moments that maybe are not great, that actually can be quite terrible sometimes. So yeah, it's a passion and kind of, your own power, that thing inside you that drives you.
Thank you so much to our amazing panel of guests for today's conversation. Thank you to everyone who is watching. We would love to hear your views on everything that we've discussed today. So please do drop your comments in the section below and keep the conversation going. Thank you for tuning in.